All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Groundsman, here for another episode of the Coach's Corner. We got a fantastic coach, Coach Adrian Norris from St. John's, all the way in Johannesburg, the first team coach at St. John's. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. I know this preseason time and this whole sort of COVID era hasn't been an easy one to manage schedules and timelines and that kind of thing. And I can imagine how tricky it has been to manage players. So I think the first question that I have to ask you, and I think we'll jump straight into it, is what do you think players should be focusing on leading up to the new season?
Well, thanks very much for having us. It's obviously a privilege to be on your show. I just think, probably would have come out of, we did play a few games in sort of April, January, February, March last year. Boys then would have hopefully were looking forward to going to a winter season playing either rugby or hockey, which obviously, unfortunately, didn't happen. So obviously, then they'd move into the winter season, then through to obviously to the summer season. So what we try and do, obviously, it's downtime during that period of rugby and hockey. Boys, obviously, purely as you've alluded to from a COVID situation. We were at school and we weren't at school, and then we were at school for a period of time, and then there was hybrid learning. So that was very, very difficult for the kids. But we did get in from a one-on-one perspective. So just from a chronological point of view, they would have worked out with us as a coaching staff what they would have wanted to have worked on through the winter, couple, specifics, and we would have worked through. So we would have set up one-on-one times with them through the period of June, July. And again, we were hampered because we were going to have a little camp sort of towards the end of July before the boys go on holiday. So we are on a 3-term system. So all our kids are currently on holiday, and they're on the holiday for the whole of August. So our so-called, and the boys have been doing lots of one-on-ones on their own. Obviously, they've been sent conditioning programs, fitness programs through this period to hopefully they keep going. But you know what? You hold thumbs that they do it. But obviously, you know what teenagers are like. 18-year-olds, they're probably doing other stuff other than doing what they should be doing, which is what they need to be doing as youngsters. We start next week with a 3-day camp, just 3 hours a day. We'll be covering sort of just talking leadership. We'll be talking KPIs, what we want to be trying to achieve. We were trying to set some standards for the season. We'll go into some net sessions, some individual sessions, obviously doing a bit of fielding and so on and so forth, setting up some game plans. And then we try to do some middles through that period. As individuals, they obviously want to be setting themselves some goals that they would like to achieve through the season. Obviously, it's a very congested season through the September, October for a number of them, and then we go on holiday again. So in a nutshell, a lot of personal preparation for them before we getting into the nitty-gritty of the season.
Yeah, it's such an interesting time. I can't imagine being a young player having to manage home studies, online sessions, and also now sort of my cricketing career prospects, and looking to do well in a season. So I think what you guys are doing for them is absolutely fantastic. Teenagers will be teenagers, but I think there's always something that sort of the extraordinary players will have. And I think that leads us to the second question, which is, what principles do you value most in a player?
Look, I think you have an idea of what you want in a player, but obviously you've got 11 kids there and they all have different reasons why they're there. I'm talking essentially as a first team. You have kids that are aspiring to play provincial cricket and maybe even play cricket for a living, if they're fortunate enough. You obviously have kids in that system who are there they're talented, they enjoy the game, but they're probably not going to play cricket after school. So you got to manage that expectation and then find a happy balance between the guys that are wanting to achieve something and the guys that are just are there to enjoy themselves and experience what team sport is about. I think work ethic, irrespective of who you are, and what situation you find yourself in. I think kids who have a good work ethic will come through at the end. Kids that understand the process rather than the outcome. I think once they're mature enough to understand that, they'll work it out quicker than most. I think a guy that's prepared to, turn his sleeves up and get stuck in and show some grit and some determination in situations that they're presented with, stuff that they've missed out on. They learn a lot about themselves in tight situations where the ball's flying around as an opening batsman on a green wicket. You're learning about yourself there. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. Same on a rugby field when you're in a tight game. You're learning about yourself the whole time. So those situations they've lost, but that's a trait, a gutsy and a gritty guy. And then I think first and foremost, someone's going to put the team ahead of themselves in situations. So in a nutshell, a good teammate for me is first and foremost.
Yeah, and that's fantastic because that goes beyond the game, like you were saying. At the end of the day, I think at this level, as coaches, you guys have such an important job in that you're not just sort of trying to get a team to win a title or win a tournament. It's also about molding young cricketers and young men and women to try and get and become the best that they can be. So, and I think a lot of that comes from you guys. And I take that now and sort of move it to the conversation we've had now in sort of the stop starts that the guys have had. What are sort of 2 or 3 drills that you have recommended or you would recommend some of the players be doing at home, taking into consideration they might be alone or maybe have a brother or sister there, that they could be doing at home just to get themselves ready for maybe next week's camp or a training session coming up?
Yeah, look, I think again, just fitness is key, and it's obviously respect to what age they are. So, I think first and foremost, when you're at home, you've got to be enjoying yourself. You're going to be releasing your pressure. You've got to be getting out and getting away from school. Cricket is one aspect of school for them. They have many different aspects that they've got to get through in the school environment. And as I said, cricket is one of them. I think these days, young boys and girls, I don't think they watch cricket enough. So it's a wonderful opportunity for them to sit down and watch cricket. Not necessarily do skills, but watch cricket. Listen to what commentators are saying. There's so much cricket on, understanding what players are going through, what they're doing, how they operate, what their mannerisms are like. I think that's key. I think if you've got mates and you've got some brothers at home, we all learned a bit of garden cricket. I think, getting off the subject a little bit, garden cricket, tennis ball, teach you very many skills. But, I think preparation for the season ahead, eye-hand coordination stuff, good footwork stuff. If you've got a mirror at home, batting in towards a mirror, shadow batting, doing a bit of shadow bowling, having somebody video you there, and then go through those finer details and, sending that information off to people that you trust with your technique, and they can give you some feedback then. So, and again, I think, just writing down, I think, through mental health and through psychology in sport, I think, reflecting on feedback is so important. So actually having a diary, setting yourself up, writing down, what you want to try and achieve from a technical perspective, a mental perspective, a physical perspective, and then just tapping into that regularly on a weekly basis, saying, after having a net, how was the net? What did I want to achieve? Did I achieve my goals? Those type of things. And then making sure that communication is taking place again with someone you trust, whether it be a coach within the school system, whether it be your parents. So you keep reflecting on where you are and you're working hard through the process. So not one thing, not 3 different specific drills, but I think there's a general thing, I think, to answer your question. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned garden cricket, and that takes me back. I think in my off season, my brother and I have played many test matches. Some would last sort of 3-4 days, where we sort of pause the score and carry on. And you learn so much in that game. I think not just sort of a technical skill perspective, but also sort of managing yourself, your fatigue, managing you're losing the enthusiasm throughout the day, and then coming back after lunch and playing again. And it's just the two of you. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. And it then sort of leads me to my last question. And I'm pretty sure during COVID, a lot of players and probably adults like ourselves have sort of sat and done a lot of introspection around who am I? Do I really want to do this? What is really important in my life? What is for some of those players that are asking themselves those questions, what is the sort of the one common thread that you've seen amongst the previous players or some of the players that come through your hands that have taken it to the next level?
Very simple. I mean, I've been fortunate enough, and the schools are fortunate enough to have a couple of good sportsmen go through here, and I think what's come through with them, the willingness to compete, no matter what situation you're in, just getting over that white line, and once you get onto that field, you're there to compete. That willingness to never say no, to compete and run through the wall for your team. I think that's always been very important. I think deliberate practice. I think we work 3 times a week from a cricket perspective, but it's the work you do outside on your own, which is very important. The stuff that, and that's the culture, I suppose that's what culture is at the end of the day. When you're doing stuff that nobody knows you're doing, you're creating a bit of a culture for yourself, and you're creating good habits. So good habits, working hard when you're away from the limelight. I think that was very, very important. And again, as I said to you, the willingness to compete, and just a general love for the game, a general love to practice and work hard, and a continual process of learning. And I think, the learning of up and down, we live in a very strange country. We live in a very strange world. The uncertainty of knowing whether you're going to be in teams or not, the uncertainty if you're going to be able to score runs, take wickets, do whatever you have to do, achieve the goals that you set out for yourself. And if you don't do that, the willingness, again, is to just self-reflect and reassess where you are, and hopefully have some good people around you that you trust, that you can help you move to the next level.
Thank you so much, Coach. And I think if I can just summarize everything we've spoken about here, which is actually exceptionally important when dealing with young players, is that you guys are focused around developing an overall player, not just a cricket player, but essentially the old adage of the blend between an academic and a sportsman. So I thank you so much, Coach. Thank you so much for coming through to the show. Moms, dads, parents, players, you heard it from the man himself. If you're looking for a good cricketing program, a good school to take your kid to, that'll give you the balance between a high-performing sportsman and also a good academic, St. John's is for you all the way in Johannesburg. Thank you so much, Coach. We really appreciate your time from the groundsman.
Well, thank you very much for having me on, and all the very best.
Thank you.